So this is part 2 of this triple video thing. 4 or 5 videos with a sting in the tail at the end. So the second video is about Jupiter conjunct Pluto with Mars in the background. Now, as I said in the previous video, first of all, Jupiter isn't that comfortable in Capricorn. It's large, it's hot air, it overreaches and overstretches, bites off more than it can chew, goes over the top. It's also fun and optimism and hope and humour and all of those other nice Jupiterian words. But in Capricorn, it tends to feel stifled. It's as if it can't express itself to its fullest ability because Capricorn imposes some type of structure or boundary or discipline, and Jupiter doesn't like these rules. It likes to be free to billow out and expand in every which way it can. And then you've got Pluto in Capricorn. Now, normally Pluto in Capricorn is kind of like, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. It's not got a negative feel about it. I mean, Pluto hasn't been in Capricorn in any of our lifetimes before. The last time Pluto was in Capricorn was some 230 years ago. That's when it left Capricorn. It's been in Capricorn now about 11 years, 11 and a half years. It's going to be there for another 4 years, 3-4 years. One of the things about Capricorn is that it deals with the notion of government, whether that is the way we govern our own lives, the way we govern each other in terms of the way we deal with structures and power structures and boundaries with each other, and certainly the way that we are governed at a collective level, whether it is in terms of local representation, corporate systems, political systems, national governments, or even international groups. All of this comes under the aegis of Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn, well, for many years, astrologers 20, 30, 40 years ago were writing about how Pluto in Capricorn would be the beginning of world government, the transformation of old national boundaries and of everyone becoming much more unified. Now, at the moment, that couldn't be further from the truth, with everyone becoming much more isolationist. I have to say, I shouldn't get into local stuff on this video, but it does seem to me that everyone's going to get this virus, so we might as well just forget about the restrictions and just get out there, and 2% of people will die and the rest won't, and we will recover. I honestly don't understand the panic, because the panic is actually worse than the virus. It's bringing out the very worst in all of us. Pluto in Capricorn is transforming our ideas of governance. Now, Jupiter and Pluto are equal and opposite. I know it sounds strange to say this, but they are. They are the biggest planet and the smallest planet. The brightest one, the darkest one. Jupiter is a mixture of many different colours. Pluto is black and white. In mythology, of course, they are equal and opposite. Pluto stroke Hades was the first of Kronos' children to be swallowed, so Hades stroke Pluto spent the longest time in the dark in Kronos' belly. Jupiter was the youngest of Kronos' children, and he was never swallowed. His mother substituted a stone for him. So Zeus grew up outside of Kronos' belly, and eventually he disemboweled his father and set his brothers and sisters free, at which point the sisters got kind of written out of male-dominated history, only re-emerging comparatively recently, and the brothers split the firmament between them, with Neptune taking the water world, Jupiter taking the overworld, Pluto taking the underworld. So not only are they equal and opposite in terms of size and colour, but they're also equal and opposite in that one rules the overworld, one rules the underworld. Now we find them both together. Now, Jupiter-Pluto conjunction happens on average about every 13 years, 12 to 13 years. So it's not uncommon, and when it does happen, it normally takes about 9 months, 8 to 9 months to complete its journey, as this one will. the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that's starting right now will continue through into November, early November of this year. But from an astrological meaning, Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Jupiter illuminates everything it touches. Pluto transforms everything it touches by going into the underworld and bringing out all the poison and bringing it to the surface for transformation. When you put the two together, as I said in the previous video, it's a bit like a pressure cooker that can't explode. You've got Jupiter transforming our philosophies and beliefs, Pluto rebirthing and regenerating our desire for governance. So it does seem that at this time, with Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn, this is symbolic of a growing desire, on the one hand, for better governance, and the whole idea of politics is being rewritten, even if the evidence is not there in the real world yet, not to be seen anyway. But also the way we govern our own individual lives. It's becoming, as we all grow and mature, so it becomes much easier to live within self-imposed boundaries and limitations rather than those pushed on us by others. And when you're strong in yourself, when you have a degree of confidence in yourself, then it's easy to bend the rules instead of breaking them. And I suggest that Jupiter conjunct Pluto with Mars in the background is giving us the philosophical drive and the subconscious sort of stamina to transform the rules and regulations and structures of society and governance. Now, the fact that Mars is in the background on top of these two just at this time and over the next week or two is suggesting that there's likely to be some type of incisive moment or event. And bearing in mind that so many countries are now shutting borders, locking down, and many people are just sort of sitting on their balconies and singing and waving, and there's a lot of great group camaraderie out there, but you can be absolutely sure that somewhere along the line there's also going to be groups of people who are going to be getting very hacked off with not being able to get out regardless of virus, and as a result there's going to be an element of subterfuge. And that's why I think with Mars on top of Jupiter and Pluto over the coming week, there could be something a little bit overly assertive, possibly aggressive, coming up between now and say 7 or 8 days time. If so, it will be a storm in a teacup, but it will also be a sign of things to come. Right, now let's move on and do the third video.